Right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and can I welcome you to the Planning Committee. Can I just say before I get onto the agenda proper, just to say that, as you know, in your diaries on a Monday prior to the Planning Committee, there is a space put aside for planning site visits. Now, that's been put in as a matter of course on the basis that there may be a call-in, and therefore we need to go and visit for a call-in for a site visit, so we need to go and out for a visit. We will endeavour to get that out of the diaries by the close of play at the end of the week before that, so that the Monday is freed up, because there was confusion because it was still remaining in the diary. In fact, it probably still is in the diary if you don't delete it. So really just to put that straight so people know in advance, if there's nothing comes in, the thing will be out the diary and it will release up that afternoon. So with that in mind, apologies.
Chair, apologies from Councillor Milligan, Councillor Russell and Councillor Smale.
Okay, in the order of business?
Is as printed in the agenda, Chair.
Okay, that then takes us on to declarations of interest. Members are reminded that you can declare an interest just now or on the particular item when we reach it. Okay, I'm getting no indications there, so that then takes us on to minutes of the previous meeting, which has been already circulated. Nothing's come back to either Democratic Services or the Planning Department, so can I take that as everybody's happy with the minutes of the last meeting? Is that okay? Right, thank you very much indeed. That then brings us on to public reports 5.1, pre-application consultation on the residential development on land at the former Newbattle High School. Members are reminded that under the current rules, if there's such a thing, that you should have read the papers, and therefore the planning officer will not introduce the paper, but he's here obviously to ask any members, answer any members' questions. So I'll just open it up to the planning committee to see if you've got any questions. Apart from Councillor Hackett, that is. No, Councillor Hackett.
Thank you, Chair, and I promise not to take up all the meeting like I did last time, and probably several other occasions, Chair. Thank you for this paper. I'd refer officers to my previous comments on applications in and around this area, in particular regarding road safety, not just along this road, but East Houses Road around the corner. I have made requests for it to be considered for double yellow lines, particularly around the garage site and then the entrance into Park Place and that sort of end of East Houses. These potential new houses coming in, there'll be a lot more traffic, and I know there's a lot of concern about road safety in the area. I'd also make a request that consideration is given that rather than building a sort of smaller play area in this development, that consideration given into investing in the play park in the existing park at East Houses. I'd also ask that consideration be given to improving road safety, so road crossings from this residential development into the park, which would also improve commuter access into both the primary school and high school. That's all the comments I have at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much for these comments. Peter Armsdorff.
Thank you, Chair. All those points raised are valid planning considerations, Chair. So I've made a note of those, and we'll take those on board in terms of this application, but obviously pick up the road safety issue separately as well as through the planning process, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree completely with Councillor Hackett on those points. Every single one's a very valid point to raise, especially the road where the wee garage is. It's terrible. Some days you're struggling to get through because they park right up to the roundabout, and if we've got children or elderly folk crossing there, it can be a real hazard. So yeah, I'd completely agree with everything John put forward there.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Is there any other members want to comment on this? No, well, these issues that have been raised by both Councillors Hackett and Cassidy will be considered when the application formally comes in and will be reported back to the committee as part of the planning application. So thank you very much for that. That then brings us on to item 5.2, which is the sorry folks, helps if you get your agenda back up again. There we are. Sorry, I was on the wrong 5.2. Is the application for the erection of an intermediate care facility, flats and associated work at Borrerigg. Okay, again, the report has been circulated to members. There is an expectation that you've had an opportunity to read that, and therefore it will be just any questions that you have. So I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Wallace.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I was sorry to see that the building will consist of a flat roof. I don't know how many times I've raised this in the council, that Scotland just should not build flat roofs. I can guarantee that within 6 months it'll be leaking. If I'm going to be remembered for anything in this council, I hope it is that I was against flat roofs and 1-bedroom houses. Can we please put a pitch on the roof and allow water to run away? Thank you.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Wallace. I've got hold on. I will get an answer for you. It's I'm just trying to see who's got their hand up. Councillor Leigh Douglas, and then Councillor Alexander.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to say that I actually wholly support the application. I think the facility will provide obviously easy access to the community, importantly create jobs. I'm absolutely delighted the listed buildings being retained for use and that its historic features are preserved. More importantly, using the site for this type of care facility is a huge contribution to the lives of those living locally. I would like to just add a little point to raise to Peter, that, you know, I appreciate there's facilities to park on site, but is there any plan to support the surrounding residents if any street parking concerns come to local councillors? I believe this was a concern of the community council, or was raised by the community council, and obviously, you know, it is a huge benefit to the community, but also we need to be mindful of the needs of the residents because it's obviously in close proximity. So just to ask that question.
Okay, I'll get Peter to come back in a minute, but I'll take Councillor Alexander, then he can take all three members that have raised questions.
Yes, I fully support this new facility. Given that we have lots of people just in Borrerigg who at present live in houses that are unsuitable for them, that they are incarcerated in their own homes because they are not suitable to allow them outside access or whatever. I think the only thing that I would say against this is that it's not enough. We need more of these types of houses. And I was a bit, although we are keeping part of the original buildings, I was just disappointed that we lost the brick building with its sloped roof. And yes, I think that's all I've got to say, really.
Right, thanks very much indeed. Peter, can I bring you in now just to answer some of the points that have been put by members?
Thank you, Chair. If I just go back to Councillor Wallace's point about the flat roofs, I understand the sentiment, Chair, but in terms of flat roof design, it is a modern approach to building construction. We're starting to see flat roof structures, not just throughout Midlothian, but throughout Scotland. So the judgment is about whether you find that design acceptable or not. I appreciate Councillor Wallace is not a fan of that building. In this particular case, we felt it was appropriate so that you kept the heights of the structures at a level which is more compatible to the surrounding area. So, for example, you've got the extra care housing building, flat roof structure. It's 3 stories, so it's roughly the same height as the previous school building that was on the site. And we were able to put that extra floor of accommodation in by having that flat roof rather than a pitched roof. But at the end of the day, Chair, it is a judgment about whether you find the design acceptable or not. Obviously, as plan officers, the planner manager, I'm presenting the report on the basis that we find that design acceptable within that location. The follow-up issue to do with the car parking provision is that the numbers proposed on site are designed to meet the needs of that site. In theory, there shouldn't be overspill into the neighbouring streets, but obviously you can't always guarantee that, or guarantee that people choose to park in the site than rather in the street. And we just have to deal with that the best we can, Chair. But in terms of the actual impact of the development, there shouldn't be a off-street car parking consequence as a result of this development. And just to note Councillor Alexander's point about the loss of Dundas buildings in terms of it had some architectural merit to it. I appreciate that, and maybe it's just a shame it's gone, but it wasn't fit for purpose, shall I say, so it needed to be demolished and the site cleared to enable these other much needed facilities to be delivered. Hope that helps, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that, Peter. I'll go to the next round. It's Councillor Hackett first, Councillor Leigh Douglas, and then Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to my earlier comments on the previous application, just if due regard could be given to road safety and a consultation with our roads department regarding a potential crossing and double yellow lines where appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Hackett. Councillor Leigh Douglas.
Thank you. Yes, I was just going to actually John beat me to it on that one, so thank you.
Okay, well, we're on something or other. Councillor Wallace.
Thanks again, Convener. To answer the question about the height for a pitch, the pitch doesn't have to be massive to make water run away. A couple of feet from one end to the other end would be sufficient, or even for the ridge, if you put a ridge on it, it wouldn't have to be huge. So I don't see what the problem is. You're just putting a slight pitch to make water run away, because I can, as I said, I can guarantee that I'm not caring how modern. I've heard this all my life in the building trade, that this flat roof's much different. It's got different materials and nothing gets in past this stuff. Till 6 months down the line, the rain gets through and you can never find the bit where it's coming in the first place, because water runs everywhere it wants to do. So please put a pitch on it, and it doesn't have to be that high.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wallace, for that. Councillor Alexander, is that what one now calls commonly known as a legacy test, or did you want to come back in?
No, it's legacy.
Okay, Councillor Parry.
Thanks, Chair. Peter, I just wanted to ask around timescales for build and whether there'll be, since the plans for this were drawn up, whether there'll need to be any adaptations given some of the shortage in building supplies and labour.
Chair, in terms of the actual build, obviously subject to the committee's decision today, but there's no requirement for a Section 75 agreement, so the planning permission, if supported by the committee, can be issued quickly. It's then over to my colleagues to proceed with the build. You're most probably aware they've already started or substantially cleared the site in terms of demolishing the existing buildings, so that work has already started on site. In terms of the general picture, yes, there are construction constraints across the whole of the UK in terms of building supplies, building materials, and even the skills. But I don't have an answer exactly when the construction will start and how that will impact the council's own projects, such as this one. Chair, I could maybe, after the meeting, speak to my colleagues in the construction services who'll get a better advice, Councillor Parry, on that separately.
Well, Peter, if you could do that, and it just add an addendum into the minutes so everybody gets the answer to that. I think we all know the answer.
Sure. Okay, Chair, and just if I can, Chair, just picking up on an earlier point about the road safety issue that was raised, I'll take that away. But in terms of the actual layout of the design, it was deliberately chose to take the vehicular access off Moorfoot View, which is already an established road, established junction, rather than creating or using the old one into the Dundas buildings. We felt that was a much safer vehicular access into the site, and I think that's that's the correct approach, but I'll take that way as well.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Councillor Wallace? No, right, okay, no problem. Right, well, we seem to have got everything covered off. Obviously, we're going to have come to a decision about flat roof versus slope roof. No, I'm putting it to the committee just to get a feeling for what's going on, and it would be helpful to the planning committee if we could get a feel for that without actually maybe going to a vote. But you know, I note your comments, Councillor Wallace, and that's why I want to. I'll listen to them and see how the rest of the committee feel. So, could we dig down on that particular aspect of it, Councillor Cassidy?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Joe there, Councillor Wallace, because I think that there's not many flat roofs round about that area either, and this is a historic building that we have to be kind of sympathetic with, a historic area. And I would say a flat roof's going to look incongruous there.
Right, thanks very much. I've just opened up a hornet's nest, right, Councillor Lee Douglas. Or it is you. You've opened up the hornet's nest, Councillor Wallace. I'm trying to put them back in the nest. Councillor Lee Alexander, please. Lee Douglas, sorry. Oh, Jeebus.
I don't think I've got my hand up actually, according to this.
Well, you did. Anyway, you did. Right, Councillor Winchester.
Thanks. I'm just thinking about the flat roof. I actually think they're built on a slight slope now to allow water runoff. I don't know if Peter can confirm that or not.
Yeah, Chair, it'll be a very, very shallow mono-pitched. Yeah, so it will look visually, it will look flat, but there will be a very small pitch to it to manage the runoff water.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor, where are we now? Hands keep on going up and down. Right, Councillor Curran.
Thanks, Chair. That's an interesting point that Councillor Wallace raises. Although I suppose what I wouldn't want to do is delay the application or bring about changes that delays the construction of this, given what its purpose is. That's an interesting point. No, just can Peter comment on sort of the fail rate or the materials that are used or the longevity of the flat roof in this case?
Chair, to be honest, I'm not really in a position to set that out. In terms of the quality of the build, the quality of the finish and its function, that then goes through a separate regulatory process, which you're familiar with, which is the building standards or the building warrant process. So once the committee is determined of the design, if the design is acceptable, then there's a separate process to make sure that the finish delivers, so that you don't get that roof leak issue, which is obviously part of the issue. I appreciate the other argument is the aesthetic view of it. So that should be the case. The vast majority of flat roof structures that I'm aware of do not have a performance issue in terms of drainage. So if it's designed and built properly, it should function properly. There's no reason that it should be leaking. But that's separate to obviously the design argument. Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. I've got Councillor Alexander this time. I've got that one right. And then Councillor Muirhead, and then Councillor Lee Douglas. So,
yes, like Councillor Curran, I wouldn't want this held up at all because the need is urgent. But I would say that a sloping roof in this area would look far better because given that nearly all the other houses in Borryrigg have sloping roofs, and as well as what it's meant to do, I think that's preferable as well, to have a sloping roof.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Muirhead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, Chair, the amount of schools we've built with flat roofs, including, I'm pretty sure, Last Wade. I haven't heard that it's been leaking. I might be wrong on that, but I didn't see what the problem is with the flat roofs, and I'm not sure none of us, maybe apart from Councillor Wallace, are experts on roofs. Is it in order for us to make that requirement here today, even if if we determined that was what we wanted? Is that something that we could actually do?
Peter?
Chair, I think, again, I would separate the two issues here. One, there's an issue about its functionality as drainage, and I would say that isn't for discussion. That's to do with making sure, if approved, it's built to the right standards, like the school buildings, etc. But in terms of design, that is a consideration for the planning committee. So if you do not like the design of the building, i.e. because of its roof pitch, then it is within your gift to refuse the application on design grounds. So you can do that. And then I would go away and say, well, the issue was about the design of the roof. So you go and change the design and resubmit a plan application and go through the process.
Okay, right, thanks. We just got, if it was to be by popular the demand that we wanted to amend the application to have a pitched roof, could that not just be amended without being refused? And therefore, I'm worried, like a lot of other members, about the hold up. We don't want to see a hold up. Nobody wants to see that around the committee. We want to crack on with it and get the thing built. But could we not just make it a condition of the design stroke build?
I think, Chair, if the members are after, I'll just use the phrase almost like a traditional pitch to the building, then you increase the height to a point that I think it would be fair and reasonable to consult the local residents again, because the size of the structure opposite them is different to what has been submitted and what they've made comment or not made comment on. So it would be unfair to do so. If we're talking about a very shallow mono pitch component, that's slightly different. But I got the impression or the feel that it was about the design of the building, as it wasn't just the drainage issue, it was how it looked. And it was the feeling, I think, from Councillor Wallace that it's not a traditional style of building and it was after a more traditional pitch. So that makes a difference to it. So, yeah, I don't think it's a case of modifying the permission without some sort of formal process, Chair. It may be a case that it could be modified, we quickly consult and then we come back to another committee. But I think it would be reasonable on those local residents who think they're getting one size of building to be consulted again if they're getting a different size of building.
Well, I didn't hear it that way, but then again, I suppose my hearing isn't 100%, but from what I understood, Councillor Wallace was not talking about a majorly high pitch or an angle, whatever one wants to call it. He was talking about a slight pitch that would give water runoff, and what he was concerned about is that the one that's in front of us doesn't give us that, and I think that's all he was looking for. It's not about adding on 2 and 3, well, I don't know how many feet or meters that you would add on if you were having a traditional one. He wasn't talking about that, from what I understand, but it's not for me to say that. Councillor Wallace, can I just bring you back in to clarify that so that we know what we're talking about around here?
Yes, thanks again, Convener. Councillor Muirhead mentioned Newbattle High School. I've only been there a couple of times and I can't remember. I usually look up to the roofs because it's usually made flat roofs. And I can't remember if I saw any rain leakage in to that building. But I certainly know that Last Wade High School has problems there with water ingress. And again, you're correct, Convener. I'm not talking about a major design change here. It just needs to be a couple of feet, 18 inches, 2 feet high, which is nothing great. If it's a 3-storey building, hardly anybody's going to notice that. It just allows water to run away, no lie, on the roof because nobody gets it perfectly flat. And then the sun comes out, which happens now and again in Midlothian, and just bakes it dry. And then, that's when the wee cracks start appearing in any membrane. I've never known a membrane that was totally waterproof. So that's all I was asking for, just for a slight pitch, nothing drastic. So I don't know why we can't just say to them, okay, put this 2-foot pitch on the roof, even if they put it in the middle, and people would see even less. Then they would have a ridge in the middle and it would slope to both sides. But anyway, that's...
No, thanks for that, Councillor Wallace. I'm glad that you and I are on the same wavelength. That was my understanding of what you were looking for. Councillor Leigh Douglas and then Councillor Hackett.
Yeah, to be honest, I sort of agree with Joe in a way. I actually am staying in a flat roofed house at the moment, and it's it was built about 15 years ago, and it's had nothing but problems. But I think what we've got to consider is that, you know, I personally, from a community perspective, I don't want to hold this up because I think it's obviously very, very necessary to the community. But, you know, is this not a case of saying that in this day, if a flat roof is built, what is surely design has increased or improved, and we can have some reassurance that this roof will not leak, whether it is an option to do what Joe suggests, or whether the architect comes back and says, actually, this won't because this is how we've done it. I mean, I don't feel that it warrants a refusal of application and then a restart.
No, I don't think he's talking about a refusal. What we're talking about is saying, are we satisfied that the design meets with our aspirations? And Councillor Wallace has raised an issue that I'd be quite happy to get committee approval to, and it can be put back. It could be carried out. It doesn't take a lot more on the actual price of the job to carry out, and it would not have an impact on the community. The biggest impact in the community is if we refuse it. So, sorry, I'm interjecting when I shouldn't be. Councillor Hackett.
Thank you, Chair. If I may ask Mr. Andersdorf, how high could we put the pitch without it requiring further consultation with the neighbours? And would we require someone with some more experience, building experience, to get that advice? Thank you.
Chair, if the issue isn't to do with the aesthetics, it's simply to do with roof drainage, then you could make a decision to support the application subject to myself just going away and either one or two options. One, asking the applicant to amend the pitch slightly to get it as low as possible, just to have a drainage. And I don't know, to make that work, how high that pitch should be, but I imagine it would be very shallow, so I could do that. Or the second option is just to ask them to demonstrate that the current design does drain adequately and has longevity to it, so there isn't a problem further down the line. If the architect was here today, Chair, they would be saying that this is perfectly well designed. It's a well-established design to a building. It shouldn't drain. It shouldn't be leaking. If it's maintained as buildings should be maintained, there shouldn't be an issue. That's what they'd be saying. So in response, they'd be saying, well, it shouldn't be. There shouldn't be an issue here. But I'll happily either seek or get an amendment to the roof slope, or I just get the comfort that the drainage works, or both. Sure.
Peter, I'd be quite happy with the members' agreement to actually agree that we actually do get a sloping roof. You go back and say that that's a condition that we want within the design, and that you come back, and if they agree with that, then I'm allowed to sign it off and we get on with it, because I, like everybody else, do not want to see a delay. We're wanting to see the thing happen. It's just that we have our own views on how it happens. And Councillor Leigh Douglas, you should go back to your builder and sue them. But that's a personal opinion.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Chair.
Councillor Curran, I notice you've got your hand up again.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, I don't disagree with that, but I just seek feedback from Peter just to see what impact that would have on the programme schedule and delivery.
I honestly don't know that, Chair. I don't know how much redesign work would be involved, because obviously when you have a structure of this size up on the roof, it isn't just like a dwelling house where you're just changing the pitch of the roof. You've obviously got all the plant associated with the sort of temperature regulation, the air conditioning, all the rest of it. So I imagine they'll have to manipulate the roof slopes around that sort of plant equipment. So I expect the architect and must probably need a few weeks just to redesign that a bit. So I would imagine you're adding maybe a month to the programme, but that is my best guess, Chair, rather than an accurate time frame to it.
Thanks for that. Councillor Wallace.
Thanks again, Convener. I'm the last to want to hold a building up that needs needs built badly in Midlothian. I would just like this to be a future reference to any architect that's getting asked to design buildings in Midlothian. Do not come to us with a flat roof building. That's all I'm saying. I hope it's not too late in the application, and I wouldn't want it to hold up this to go through. So it's just one of my pet hates, having flat roofs. And I'm sorry, Councillor Lee Douglas has a flat roof with leak in it, but I think she's not the only flat roof building in Scotland that's got leaks in them.
Yeah, can I just, sorry, Chair, but just on that note, I also have a property with a flat roof in somewhere that's very sunny, and I have absolutely no problem with it. So it's to do with weather for definite.
It's to do with the weather in Scotland. We know that. We know that. Exactly. That's why a lot of our buildings that were built many years ago are in the mess that they were in, and have now subsequently, not so much in Midlothian, but in other parts of Scotland, been demolished and rebuilt. So yes, I think we're all at one on that. Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Wallace. It'll be taken away, but the bottom line is not to be held up in any way, shape or form. Okay, do the committee agree with that? Okay, right, yeah. Thanks very much. And that's the meeting at its end. And can I just thank everybody for the attendance and participation, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully in the chamber next time.